Welcome, beautiful souls, to the Soul Collective podcast. Today, I'm so grateful to have Rob Gauthier on the show today. It feels like a long time in the making, Rob, and I'm just excited to connect with you. You're also known as the ET Whisperer, and you've been doing this over a decade, really helping people to raise their consciousness and assist in these times of cosmic remembrance. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Emily, for having me on. I'm really excited to be here, and it's been a fun journey to get here with you. I know we were talking before you had the baby and everything, and being able to connect now is really perfect timing. So I really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. It does feel like divine timing. So much that is transpiring at this time. And I don't know about you, we're recording in 2025, and it just feels like such an opening. Time is accelerating, and it just feels like such a heightened time where things are so magnified. So I'm really curious to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, it is a very different time. The way we feel time, the way we experience time, it's been very different. And I think everybody can agree that since maybe 2019-ish or so, things feel like they've been either really accelerated really fast, or if it's something that we've been impatiently waiting for, it feels like time stretches. And something my guides told me a long time ago, like probably around 2010 when I first started channeling, the first being I connected with, Treb, he always said that, 2012, that was the big hype back then. Everyone's like, what's going to happen in 2012? So people asked him about that. And he said 2012 is like a marker of time where the energy is a precipice. So 9 years before that, it builds up to this point, and then 9 years after, that point kind of releases. And when that cycle is done, then a new large cycle begins. And it's called like an evolutionary cycle or a density. Some people call it ascension.
Mm.
And these ideas are hard to grasp conceptually, but the energy itself is just highly accelerated at the end of that cycle. And when did that cycle end? 2012, 9 years after 2021. So I always knew that this would be kind of a weird little time that we all went through, but I never expected for it to come the way that it did. And the time experience itself, yes, it feels very fast, but mechanically and energetically it's supposed to, because this is a time where we create the new cycle of how we want our Earth Collective to go, and our free will is a part of that, our actions are a part of it. So I always knew it was coming, just not the way it did. So I'm happy we're here. Even though shifts are jarring sometimes for collectives, you look at the world, but look at your personal life and see the things that have shifted real fast in the last couple of years. And it can be jarring, but when you see kind of what it's building to, it can also be real beautiful too. So
Mm. Such a potent reminder right now, because I feel like we can resist change. And, one of the words that just keeps coming through is around surrender, and how, surrender can be just such a powerful gift and medicine for this time, especially as we embrace so much change and transformation. And, you know, I'd love to ask you just your journey and your experience with channeling. Like, is it something that you were consciously and intending to do, or just a gift that you somehow activated?
yeah, channeling was way off my radar. I didn't know what channeling was until after I had my experience, and then I started kind of digging in. But um, it goes all the way back to where my son was born. And I know we talked a little about, children and the way they shift things in our life before we started here. But I had my son at a young age, 19. He also was born with some severe developmental physical problems, cerebral palsy. So by the time he was 2, he wasn't doing anything that he was supposed to be doing, sitting up, talking or walking or any of these things. And when we went to the doctors, they're like, yeah, he has cerebral palsy, which is like brain damage, which was happened from him at birth. And they basically told us, hey, he'll probably not live past his teenage years. He's never going to do these things, walk, talk, communicate, blah, blah, blah. So at 19, when I just fell in love with this tiny human for the first time, I loved someone more than I did myself. It was a punch to the gut, and it was horrible. And I got into a car accident. In Michigan, it snows a lot. I hit a tree with my car and injured my shoulder and my neck, and started on pain medicine, and that became an addiction. And it took 10 years of a slight pain problem. Well, it was a pretty severe pain problem, to a full blown addiction to not just pain meds, but everything. Full blown drug addict. That was the way I dealt with that. Um, Coming out of that drug addiction, also my love for my son. I saw that he was the only thing in the world I still cared about, and I needed to change for that. So my journey was like, hey, there's this part of my life that I hadn't had been connected to for so long. I hadn't been connected to my emotions, my mental state, my relationships outside of my son. And all of a sudden it comes flowing back when I quit doing all these drugs. And it was intense. And I explored the idea of God. I was raised Christian, and really, like, from the time I was 13, I just pushed that religion away because it was too much and it didn't resonate, and a lot of hypocrisy in the churches and stuff. So the next best thing for me was like trying to find something that could bridge that divide. I believe that there was something that created everything, a power above ourselves. I just didn't know how to categorize it. So I went to spiritualism churches, and they basically said we can prove that God exists, that afterlife exists, because we can talk to the dead. And I thought, this is going to be really wonderful, or it's going to be really horrible. And this is before social media was a big thing. Facebook maybe just had come out. MySpace was still prevalent back then. And I never posted about my son online, and they gave me a full thing about my son. My son wasn't present with me. I didn't have a wheelchair rack on the back of my van, so there's no way anyone could have known it. And I knew that there was something there, and I studied with him for multiple months, did meditations with him. They taught me how to meditate. And then I switched my addiction from like a drug addiction to meditation addiction. And this is what helped me open up my ability to channel. And I met Treb in an astral projected state, actually. So it wasn't like I just started bringing through these energies. I physically saw him in like a lucid dream type state. And that's how I began my communication with him. So I would do this over and over again. I mean, it freaked me out, and I thought my brain got broke. But I was too curious. I was like, something here is important. So I kept talking to him for 2 years. And then everything he told me, I would look online to see if there was any confirmation, that my brain wasn't just broken somehow. And that's how I found other channeling, like Jane Roberts and the Seth material and Daryl Anka and Bashar. And I was like, can we do this? Because the information he shared with me, I was like, this is life changing. Like, my whole life was shifted over those 2 years. And he's like, yeah, of course we can. So then I started channeling, and I dropped my first video on YouTube, maybe less than 2 or 3 months after I started learning how to channel, and just started sharing it. And I was like, if one person sees this and it helps them as much as Trev has helped me, then the time and energy is worth it. And that's how it started. And that was back in 2010 when I first shared publicly online.
What strikes me about your journey is just the dedication and how it shifted your own life. And then the dedication to bringing through that wisdom. And I think that's so beautiful. Do you feel like anybody has the ability to become a channel?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually teach people how to channel. So anyone can do it, but it's not something that everyone will do.
Mm-hmm.
I've met a lot of people who say that they're excited about it. So I will preface that, and I'll say some people can do it naturally more easily than others. People who are empathic, people who are already psychically connected, they're going to have a much easier time learning channeling than someone who's never had any type of spiritual experience. But that doesn't mean people who have not had those experiences can't channel. Channeling is actually something that's been described by Trev and Ardif to myself throughout the years as the natural state of human consciousness. We have telepathy built in, we have psychic ability built in. It's in our DNA. It's in the code of the universe. But we also have taught ourselves that we're not good, that we're not psychic, that we're not able to use these. So there is a bit of programming to break through. But yeah, anyone can do it. Anyone who's ever had an experience where they had a bad feeling about a loved one when something bad happened, or a good experience like, oh my God, I feel really good about this person, and find out that they won the lottery, or got a new job, or the thing that they've been trying to do for years, they finally did. It's natural. When we connect with people, our energy connects with them. So channeling is just learning how to break open the inside resistance that you have to connect to yourself, and then the energy out and about.
Yeah. I love how you described that. That's so beautiful. And it does feel like we're on the precipice of such a monumental shift and opening to these gifts that, that are within us. And, the telepathy tapes is such a poignant example of that, of just, humanity being ready at this time, disclosure and, our connection to, that there's something more within us and within the universe. And so I love how you're connecting people. One of the questions that I have for you is that did you notice that you had to make any shifts to attune to the vibration or frequency of the guides that you were connecting with?
Yeah, that's a very important question. The first one, Treb, he was the closest one to me. That's why I connected him first. And this is something I found out throughout the years after working with him for a while. So his connection to me was pretty easy. Not easy, but I mean, once I opened up that energy, he would naturally be the closest one to me. And it actually took me years after channeling with him to connect to Ardif. I had channeled Ardif, or more accurately, I channeled Treb, who channeled Ardif one time for a book, and it was the most interesting, intense, most in-depth 20 some pages of the book I had done with Treb and a guy named Jefferson Viscardi. And he asked Treb, hey, can you bring in other entities? And he's like, yeah, sure. And Ardif was one of the beings. Now, Treb had talked to me about Ardif, but I found out that like Ardif is the same with Treb as Treb is with me. So Ardif is like Treb's guide in a higher dimension above him, in a higher level of understanding and connection than Treb is. And after years of channeling Treb, my own vibration became more open to connecting. And then Ardif came in. And then after 2 or 3 years of channeling him continuously, Metatron came in. And Metatron's energy is just way different. It's huge. It's a different type of consciousness than Treb or Ardif, who would be considered higher dimensional extraterrestrial beings. They're beings who live in a body, who live in the universe, just in a higher dimension, where Metatron is just, it's huge. It's like a collective consciousness of energy. So working with each of those beings, I had to channel more, which brought me a better connection to myself and to them. And that opened me up. And being able to channel Treb and Ardif now, there's like over 1,000 different ET beings at least. I quit counting after multiple hundreds, but I imagine over 1,000 different ET beings I've been able to channel for the same reason. Because when I channel, my energy clears up, expands, is more open, and then the new type of energy comes in and the new beings come in.
Mm. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Are you open to channeling or bringing through Metatron at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. I can bring him in. It's now the channeling of Metatron is a little different. Anyone who might have seen me or will go and look at Treb and Ardif, Both of them are very, very accentuated in the specific way that they come through. Metatron is more stoic, but definitely Metatron's energy is very powerful. I did an interview with Extra Dimensionals with Ruben that ended up going, Ruben Langdon, and that ended up going on Gaia TV. But one of the episodes that didn't go was Metatron. He released that publicly. And I think it's one of the highest views that his whole show has gotten. But what's amazing, Metatron's the only being that's actually changed my environment physically around me when I channeled him. That day, it was clear. It was like clouds all around, very quiet. It was dead silent. And then when I brought Metatron's energy in, the birds went crazy. Insects, you can watch the video, they're coming in and out of the frame. The sky opened up and the sunshine, it was just very intense. So Metatron is an intense energy channel, but one that I love to do. So I'll definitely bring Metatron in.
Okay.
It'll take a minute or so to drop into that energy because I do trance channeling, so I go pretty deep. There. There. Greetings and salutations. We are Metatron. The consciousness of Earth gathers itself to understand itself more each day deeply in the collective consciousness. The perspective that humans hold while the collective consciousness is doing this varies drastically from the individual personal perspective. This energy of your collective consciousness gathering with itself now represents the importance of each individual human going into the center of their own consciousness. Our aspect of Metatron represents the centralized form of your own consciousness inside of the heart chakra of the soul. This experience of going into the center is going into the place of your own consciousness that holds the least amount of resistance, the part of you that is most natural version of yourself. Now, this is important as individuals experience this for very obvious reasons. Each of you individually finding this part of yourself creates an opportunity for joy, an opportunity for expansion. But the collective consciousness also requires this before the consciousness can move forward. And moving forward, this collective consciousness finds the importance of the individual human consciousness finding itself thoroughly. If you're not able to thoroughly explore your internal consciousness of yourself, you're not able to operate as an entire collective consciousness. We don't mean the collective consciousness of a hive mind. We don't mean the collective consciousness where all beings are plugged into one energy and only have access to a collective perspective. That is further in the evolution. What we mean by the collective consciousness is all humans finally perceiving oneness of their group, one planet of human beings, one consciousness that is available for that planet of human beings, and the divisionary lines that have created difficulty for humans to connect with one another begin to dissolve. The dissolving of those lines that separate you is the collective consciousness. and we're happy to speak about your collective, about your experience with any questions that you have.
What is the significance of the year that we're in right now, 2025, and perhaps moving into 2027, this time for humanity?
Yes, the 2025 time period to 2027 is a large shifting pattern. This is the breaking loose of many resistances that the human collective has. You notice that the systems that have been most prevalent in your Earth collective have also been the most resistant. These are governmental structures, financial structures, religious structures, educational structures. All of these things have been important for the evolution, but also have caused many personal resistances with both freedom and the freedom to explore your internal self and ideologies connected to all of those things. So this time period is the systematic replacement of those systems to something better. This is not something where other beings are directly interacting or interceding on your behalf, but there are many supportive systems that are around Earth that help the human collective consciousness find more of these energies. And the experience of these systems is a natural part of the evolution. When you see them being broken apart, dissolved, dismantled, you see your own consciousness starting to break down barriers inside of yourself. The human perspective says what happens to the collective is forced as an experience upon myself as an individual, but this is absolutely inverted from the truth in the matter. The truth in the matter is that the collective consciousness is available to all of you because the individuals are creating the experience. And for evolution's sake, these systems have to be redesignated. These systems have to be redesigned. So the human consciousness wants that, desires it deeply inside of their emotion and their mental state. And that's what creates the opportunity for these systems to dissolve in a way that, yes, is very upsetting for some of you. But when you see the dissolving completely happen, if you remain open to all possibilities of how that dissolving occurs, then it gives all of you the opportunity to rebuild these systems in a way that is good, that is fair, that is equal, that gives the human heart a platform for the system.
What is the role of money in our current reality, and do you see it evolving?
Yes, money is a financial system, and we understand there are multiple perspectives in the human understanding of this, some that it is good, some that it is bad, but it is neither. It's simply a currency of energy, and that energy will give, just like all other systems, only what you perceive and only what you believe will be embedded and connected to that energy. So for humans who have belief systems that finances in way of money are bad, of course we'll have bad experiences with them. Humans who perceive money as the ultimate good, then these beings have a very good time in experiencing that money. Money at the point that it is now is created through systems that are naturally resistant, centralized banking, creating currency without energy of backing that system up. Now you see more changes towards digital currency, and both of these also have the same kind of energy that your collective consciousness holds. Some that holds very positive, good, loving intentions behind them. Others, not so loving and not so kind intentions behind them. But both of those become negated by your intention with them. If your intention to work with money is to create abundance for yourself and others, then you're taking a system that has flaws and creating good things with them. This is a positive outcome. The system itself is being pushed in multiple directions so that humans have the opportunity to choose what system. And this system will become more digitalized as it goes. And this is a natural evolution because of your technology. And your technology comes in two phases: the external technology, which is what most humans work with now, compared to the internal technology. And once internal technology becomes embraced by the entire Earth, then external technology dealing with systems of finances will no longer be relevant or needed. But of course, there's an evolution there. Of course, this amount of time it will take will not likely be seen in any of your lifetimes, but that is where it's heading.
Great. How important is it for us to balance the feminine and masculine in order to reimagine these systems?
It's vital for all humans not to balance it with a scale saying that more masculine or more feminine energy should be here, or that I need exactly 50% of each in order to accomplish a desired outcome. What is needed is the energy of the personal consciousness to use their own weight and scales. Some of you are naturally more feminine than masculine. That's fine, but don't abuse either of those two energies. Many humans perceive I am overly masculine, I must force feminine energy, and they do so in an imbalanced way. Others are the other way around, where they are putting consciousness in a forced way. Forcing yourself in any direction is not a natural state. Allowance is the state. Nurturing both the masculine and feminine energy that you have as individuals will help you balance the scale. It is very obvious for all of you who understand the difference between masculine and feminine energies that Earth holds much more masculine energy in its collective sense than it does feminine. And at this time, feminine energy is being surfaced. But as humans do, when they feel imbalanced internally, they bring through that energy in imbalanced ways also. So the idea isn't to force more feminine energy into the collective. It's to balance that energy inside of yourself with a natural balance, not to push one side of the scale down or lift the other side, but allowing. And it's understanding your own sense of masculine and feminine energy, using them at the correct time for what's best and most natural for yourself. This will ripple out in the collective, just like every singular experience ripples out in the creation of the collective.
Beautiful. What would you say about the role of shadow work and each of us exploring our own shadows at this time?
This time is a very important time, but all time is very important for you to recognize the duality that exists both in the universe and in the Earth's collective consciousness. Before humans existed, there were other beings who existed who were sentient, bipedal, higher dimensions of consciousness than the animal realm around you, the tree realm around you, even though these have their own type of ancient wisdom and consciousness. The more complex consciousness that human beings hold now has happened on Earth multiple times. Every time that those natural experiences have occurred, they were in duality. The beings who inhabited Earth experienced duality. All beings in the universe experience duality. Now, Earth holds a large spectrum of duality that's larger than, say, many Pleiadian races, who may experience only small amounts of that spectrum. Humans are operating on a wider scale of possibility and spectrum. This allows you to explore the darkest levels of humanity and the most loving levels of humanity all in one lifetime, all in one body, and all in one incarnation. This is the experience that you have as humans, and working with the dark parts of yourself is very important to understand the whole. Without knowing your darkness, without knowing your love, you cannot know your entire self.
Is there a timeline on Earth where we will completely eradicate human trafficking, wars, duality?
Not duality in the sense that you may understand, but yes, there will be a time in human evolution where humans no longer perceive other humans as separate from themselves. This will take some time. It will take time for the wars on Earth to stop. It will take time for humans to stop devaluing each other as human beings. But that is the evolution. To understand your place in the whole is to understand yourself. Then it gives you an allowance to understand the whole. Once you understand the entirety of Earth and all of its people are part of one consciousness, there's no need to hurt others. There's no need to kill others or to traffic them or all of the other cruel behavior that occurs now when you feel so deeply separate from one another.
What can you share about consciously creating our reality?
Yes, this formula of creation is much more complex and also much more simple than humans think. There are multiple dynamics that come into play when you're creating your own reality, but whether you understand it, whether you feel it, or whether you perceive it or not, you are creating reality, both in a very literal way, but also very figuratively. The figurative sense of creating your own reality just goes within your belief systems and mental state. When you process your mental state and say that every time I do this, I have a bad time. Every time I do this, I am having a good time. You are already programming the way your emotions will react to the experience at hand. Creation comes from allowing yourself less reactivity and more simple allowance. We understand through the conversations that have been spoken today, allowance is a theme of creation, and we agree with that wholeheartedly. The experience itself of creation comes from action. You must act on the things that you are passionate about. You must allow those actions to come when you feel called to do them. You must listen to yourself, accept yourself, and when you are doing the things that you are passionate about, when you are doing the things that you are excited about, allowing yourself to be in that moment without judgment for others, for yourself, for the action, for the experience. This is where purposeful creation becomes more clear to humans. Now, of course, there are always caveats involved. There are always multiple dynamics at play from multiple levels of the soul, but these experiences themselves can be understood by simply allowing. Now, if your mind has been programmed to say, I want this one thing, and you only believe this thing comes in one way, this removes allowance. This creates a tunnel vision in one direction for one thing and one only pathway for that thing to manifest. So, of course, all of the potentials that are around the possibility of creating that in other ways become closed. This is also where allowance comes into play, allowing yourself the passion, not perceiving on the steps or methods that your desire can be met, and simply allowing yourself to act.
Mm-hmm. This question is about reprogramming and reprogramming the subconscious. You know, for those that feel as though they're perhaps doing the spiritual work or they've been on this path of maybe consciously understanding how to create one's reality, but finding themselves in the same reality, what advice would you have?
There are experiences in that reality that are serving you and a purpose for you in that experience. We understand that creates frustration automatically when those words are said, but you have multiple levels of wants and desires. We'll give you an example. The human being who says, I want a better job, they will sit there and create the experience of needing a better job. Their desire for that job itself, the new job, and the hatred of the job that they have now are automatically starting to create resistances around them. They are blocking parts of their own energy by feeling that if they don't have this new job, no happiness or peace can be found. So automatically, just with the energy of intention, you have multiple creations of resistance around the possibility of that manifestation. It is hard to say, and it is hard for you to hear, but sometimes simply allowing to be in that place with excitement to change that place, but an acceptance that you're there for that moment is exactly what unlocks the next possibility. When you have a desire to change jobs and to shift energies, those energies are there. They are there for creation. They are there for the possibility. But the human consciousness perceives multiple levels and involves the mental state dramatically. And that creates a network to the pathway of that creation that's winding and twisting without a clear path and an open path. And just as we have said in the previous exchange, by simply perceiving that there is only one or two ways to that opportunity, you are creating resistance in every probable version of that reality that could come manifest. So accepting, I am where I am at this moment because this is where I need to be, but this is where I want to be, and am excited to be open for the experience of how that will happen is your best pathway. Sometimes your soul will keep you in that place because you need to be in that place in order for the right door to open for the best possible outcome for you.
So powerful. Thank you for that. What would you share about self-love and how that's connected to everything that we're speaking about?
Self-love is self-acceptance. Humans perceive love to be a very distinct emotion or a very distinct connection. But what love is connection. So if you love yourself, that means you're connected to yourself. If you truly want your heart to be open to yourself, it's a radical acceptance of all aspects of yourself. This is why the shadow work is important. You have to love the angry parts of you, the parts of you that may commit violence or create aspects of confrontation or calling names to someone that you love. Even that darkest part of you has to be nurtured in love for true self-acceptance to occur. So the importance of self-love is the simple openness of acceptance. When you find your truest version of yourself, this is the center we spoke of. This is the center of consciousness. It is in the heart. The heart is the center of the chakras that are inside of your physical body. The heart is the center of your physical body, the energy of the halfway point to all of the different power points inside of your body that are called chakras. The heart is the place where you feel love, but also where you feel heartbreak. These areas of energy are centralized for the reason. To find the center of yourself is to find love, and to find love is to find connection. So when you are being honest with yourself, when you are open to yourself, when you're nurturing to yourself, these are all acts of self-love. That's when you become the real version of you.
Beautiful. Some people speak of this time as the Age of Aquarius or entering into the golden age or the new earth energies. How would you speak of this time, and what are some of the characteristics of the energy that it's unfolding at this time?
Yes, all of those are apt descriptors, calling it Ascension, calling it New Earth, calling it whatever term fits your own understanding. The Age of Aquarius is pertinent. The energy of Aquarius is represented by unity, by understanding with higher levels, both in technical and aspects of technology, but also aspects of the self. All of these are self-describers. The next part of your experience is what the beings who Rob work with normally would call densities. These are levels of evolution. The level that you are just leaving is the level of self-exploration, of self-understanding. The level you are going into now is the level of the collective consciousness. This means that your increase in external technology will be very relevant to you. You've already seen in the handful of years leading up to this moment, the increase in technology, exponential increase in technology. You've also found that the energy of what was important 20 years ago, 10 years ago, no longer holds importance. And what is holding importance for most humans is community and relationships. The energy of economy was one of the greater driving things, and this energy still holds a level inside of your collective. But the energy of how your economy works for you instead of how you work for the economy is the opposite of the age that you're leaving, and more relevant to the age you're going into. This is an age of simple growth where you are connecting, where before the exploration of self was a very individualized experience. This is the collective level of connections. How do you connect to other human beings? How do they connect to you? And how do all of you connect with one another? This is not just about connecting to other beings. It is connecting to experiences. The way you will connect to your experiences will change. The way you connect to inanimate objects, the aspect of what your job is, what the aspect of what your personal desired development is, all of these will change. It was a process of self-exploration. Now, it is personal and collective connections.
Can you give us a preview? I understand that jobs and perhaps, skill sets are what we call purpose is going to be evolving. What do you see as some of the roles that are going to be emerging?
Many roles will change and are already changing quickly. Eventually, the experience of being on Earth will not be job-oriented. You will have passions, and you can dedicate your time and energy into those passions without fear of lacking resources. This is where humans are now. The experience of feeling afraid to not have resources is why you would dedicate your time each day to a job or career. That energy is already shifting. You see these systems of finance shifting. You see technology increasing, artificial intelligence increasing. Many humans are fearful that the artificial intelligence consciousness will overtake jobs or overtake the world in some negative aspect. But the artificial intelligence is only an extension and expansion from the human consciousness, the beings who code the artificial intelligence, the humans who use the artificial intelligence. That's what feeds consciousness into the construct of artificial intelligence. So when you're using it for positive purposes, it will create positive things. When you're using it with intention for positivity, even those that can use them for negative things will have more resistance there. So embracing the concept of shifting your focus to what you're excited about and dedicating your time to that is something that will be very potent in your collective for the next 10 years, minimally. And as time goes, the more it will allow the human collective to start shifting their focus from what they need financially to what they need to nourish their soul.
Mm-hmm. Anything structurally that you see that, I'm just thinking in terms of communities emerging and, the different ways of approaching housing and education. I'd love if you could touch on those systems.
Yes, those systems are already being shifted, even though those are some of the slower systems of shift. The reason why they feel slower and will be slower is because the financial, religious, and governmental systems are the first that need to shift in order for the other things to shift behind them. The structure of housing, the structure of education are all being pushed upon very deeply now. You see many aspects of humanity simply expressing hatred towards the educational system that it's set in now. You see an other side trying to feed that system so that it can continue onward. But what you don't see are shifts for that educational system that are more open and expansive to all humans to be able to utilize that. Now, worldwide, these systems have already made great shifts with free education and free further education in many places of the world. And that will be continuation of where the consciousness will head. But first, the community versions of education are what's most important to shift into now. Community building is something that is in your collective consciousness very strongly now. And that is where most of these new systems will spring. You have a need in a certain place in the world that you don't. In another, you must tailor your needs to be met with new systems. That can be done locally. We'll give you an example. Your system for the United States government works in multiple ways. There's a system for the federal level, a system for each state, and those state systems are individual. You break that down further. There are county-structured governments and city-structured governments. But look at your largest cities. The cities of Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, 3 of the largest cities, and those you can go from one side of a city to the next and not have the same needs for one group of people that you would for another group living within a 10-mile radius. The systems of need will be met by the local communities. That is how the systems will start to shift. That is how the education systems will start shifting. People put time and energy into their own local school system, start sharing their own specialties. Deregulation of those systems is also important to a degree because through bureaucracy and red tape that many governments are so fond of, many systems become broke, many systems become broken and financially unsustainable. So putting your heart and passion into those places, your time and effort into those places in your own community, this is what heals most of the ailments that exist with educational and housing systems. If you live in a neighborhood where there are hundreds of homeless human beings coming together with that neighborhood to build housing or to turn abandoned buildings into housing, this is the way that you care. The federal government will not care what the state governments do. The state governments will not care what you are doing in your city, and even with a large city. One aspect of your Congress will not care what's happening in a borough that does not affect them. It's those who are affected who act with passion, and this is where the systems start to rebuild. New ideas come from the new ways and innovations to change different types of system. And once the collaboration between these different groups happen, then of course the best ideas will be chosen.
Beautiful. Are there any unique characteristics of the beings who are incarnating on Earth at this time, and any special ways of supporting that they need?
And yes, the characteristics of souls who come into Earth at this point are beings who are already well-versed in going through experiential difficulty. Many of the human beings who have been incarnating into the Earth human cycle for long periods of time are coming back and help assisting. There are also many beings who are from other planetary consciousnesses, other solar system consciousnesses that have been well evolved. These beings are at a high level of evolution towards the end of the physical realm of evolution, and these beings come in through different archetypal structures. You see the autistic spectrum of human beings, and many beings are being born into that archetype so that they are able to work with humans on a higher dimensional level. You see the archetype of multicultural and multi-ethnic expressions of human beings becoming higher. This is because the lines of division between ethnic and cultural backgrounds must also be part of the dissolving system. So yes, the system of beings physically who are being born are coming from souls who know that this time is a heavy form of shift.
That resonates. Does everybody have access to ascend?
Yes, everyone is ascending. Everyone is ascended. Everyone is in the system. This is something where many misconceptions are created from an experience of a community who understands that there is a shift occurring. They say that I must be a perfect human. I must be holy. I must be spiritual, and then I can ascend. I will leave all of my loved ones who are not awake behind. That is not how ascension works. Ascension means to rise. The collective consciousness of the earth is rising now. Humans who had no perspective of what the earth experience was 5 years ago have some level of understanding now. Even humans that may be judged to be less awake because they are inserting themselves deeply into politics or inserting themselves only into systems that are very physical. These beings do not lack spiritual aspects of consciousness. They are only experiencing it through a lens that they need to experience. But for the collective consciousness, they are doing a great favor. They are transmuting the level of consciousness from those perspectives in order to grow and expand in their own realm. When one human being learns an experience, the entire collective has access to that one experience. This is why all of the souls that inhabit Earth go through incarnation cycles and revisit Earth over and over, allowing for all possible experiences to be shared into that collective consciousness. So the human who you think won't ascend and isn't awake, this being is creating a pathway for all beings who come after them who are at that level of consciousness. And just because they do not understand the spiritual concepts of higher dimensions or spirituality in the same way that you do, doesn't mean that their experience isn't full of expansion and growth. Of course, all humans are expanding, all humans are ascending, all humans are growing in this moment.
Are there forces that do not wish for humanity to grow and evolve?
Yes, of course, multiple systems. Many of those are just human beings. The beings who understand that if the systems that are experienced now on Earth break or crumble, that they will lose their positions of power or wealth or domination, depending on the intention of the humans alone. There are also extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional beings, collective consciousnesses that are embedded inside of the universe towards a more malevolent side, who also don't want to see the Earth collective grow. They are fond of the fear that is projected by the human collective consciousness, but it doesn't matter what they want. Evolution is natural. Evolution is innate in all things, and evolution can't be stopped. If humans truly felt that the human experience was done, that humans would be extinct. The fact that you continue to persist in a physical body means there's more to learn. Nothing can stop that. The humans, the extra-dimensionals who need to experience fighting their own growth. That is why they've taken that position in life.
What are some of the key reasons why one may choose to incarnate in this earth plane as opposed to other planetary systems of consciousness?
Yes. Are you able to repeat that? The technology distorted the verbal exchange.
Yes. I'm just wondering some of the key reasons why one might choose to incarnate here on this earth plane as opposed to other planetary consciousness.
Yes, many beings choose different planetary consciousnesses for the themes that they use. But it's that Mars was unique. The multiple planets have unique aspects of those inner solar system, have others. Highest percentage and possibility of growth exist. This is why humans have left the Earth incarnation cycle to join Pleiadian incarnation cycles. system and have joined the Earth and the solar system here. So all beings have the opportunity to go where they need to go, to be where they need to be. The idea of incarnation, cycles, or reincarnation being a trap is something that humans fear. And they understand reincarnation is experience, but the soul can go where it desires. The human perspective says that may not be possible, because if I had a but you are only a small piece of your soul. Once you leave the able to see multiple vantage points for that experience. So many who said, I would never come back to Earth.
You broke up a little bit at the end there. I would love if you could repeat, if you could, about not returning to Earth, or why one would choose otherwise.
Yes, when a human says, why would I come back to Earth? This Earth is filled with suffering. This Earth is filled with pain. Yes, inside of your body, you are only a small piece of a soul. But when you leave your body and rejoin the soul, it holds a much different perspective, a much higher perspective. And we don't say higher with judgment. We only mean that the higher perspective gives more information. That information that you have as a soul will show you the reason why you keep coming back. And those who have the hardest time being in a body upon Earth, those who don't enjoy being in the body very frequently, those are the ones who come back to Earth most frequently, because they understand the value in the experience that Earth holds.
Mm. Thank you, Metatron. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
We only share that as you go into your heart, you go into the natural part of your center consciousness, but it's not only the emotion that lies in the heart. The consciousness of the center comes from having as neutral a perspective as you can on all things that you wish to attach to, and to be detached from all things that aren't a part of your necessity in life, that aren't a part of your goal in life, that aren't a part of your plan for life. Not detached as in not caring, but detaching worries, concerns, or fears from those things. Being in the center means being in your heart, means being in your equilibrium. And that expression we have given well throughout the day, and believe that it is a significant place for all of you to have an understanding with. And we are grateful for the time and communication that we've had with all of you today.
So grateful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, and salutations, as we are Metatron.
Thank you. Well,
All right. How'd it go?
that was incredible. So much wisdom that came through. Thank you so much. How do you
You're
feel?
very welcome. A little ungrounded. I haven't channeled Metatron in a while. It's really potent, so a little ungrounded, but I'll be okay in a few minutes.
Yeah. Can you share a little bit more about what that experience is like?
Yeah. My experience when I channel Metatron is different than when I channeled Trevor before. Literally, I just go black. It's like going into a sleeplet or a sleepful, visionless, just black sleep. Like when you go to bed and you just wake up. There is some level of awareness of the body, but it's just a darkness, and that's kind of my experience with Metatron. The other side of the experience with Metatron is different. I quit channeling Metatron for a long time because every time I channeled him, my life would get pushed in a direction of more growth. And that's very weird for me to say. Like, Trev and Ardif are the least interfering types of beings. Like, they won't tell me what I should do. And neither does Metatron. But when I channel Metatron, it's like it pushes my life towards being more active in channeling for some reason. And during my daughter's birth, she was born with some birth defects, and she had like 4 surgeries by the time she was 4. So I quit channeling him because I was like, I can't get pushed right now. My family's like on standstill. If I get pushed, I drag the family with me. So it's like a push towards a more motivated in it. It's really weird to describe. But like after years of not channeling him, I channeled him, and then my apartment flooded, the same apartment I was trying to get out of for a long time. And then
Wow.
after that, I channeled him, and then I got my first phone call to go back out on the road after my daughter's surgery was done. And every time I've channeled him since, big things get pushed. And so yeah, the not having an experience while I'm channeling is mild compared to the experience I get energetically after I channel that big push. So
Wow. Potent. Yeah. Wow. Um, I wonder if you could share, do you feel as though you've worked with these beings, Metatron, and your other guides through multiple lifetimes?
Treb and Ardif for sure, no. Well, I won't say no. I will say Treb, no. Ardif, maybe. I've not uncovered that part of it yet. It's funny, like Treb and Ardif, they don't give me answers like they give everyone else. When I ask them, they're like, you know the answer, you'll figure it out. I'm like, nice. So uh Metatron, yes, for sure. Metatron is an archetype of energy for the earth. So everyone is connected with Metatron. Metatron is part of you, is part of your cellular level. You're a part of Metatron cellular level. It's a very different type of energy. It's like a matrix energy. It's a collective earth energy that's just for the earth. Um, that's why it's always perceived as an archangel, because that archangel protects and looks over and gives information. But Metatron is like 1/12 or 1/13 of all of Earth's consciousness is in that archetype of Metatron. So everybody works with Metatron all the time, whether they know it or not.
Wow. Well, just so much wisdom and guidance that came through today. I'm so, so grateful. Any any final words of wisdom that you would like to share?
I'm happy that I got a chance to connect with everybody today, and my whole thing is, right now the Earth is kind of a little chaotic feeling, and that's okay. A lot of people are having fear or anger or doubt, and that's okay too. We're going through this because we need to, and just try to remember not to let these feelings create hate for other people. Um, I see people in politics, especially left versus right, Democrat versus Republican here in the US. And that's the horrible thing about a two-party system. There's only two versions you can get. But I see people like online viscerally hating each other. And, those people want the same exact thing that you do. They want to be happy. They want to have freedom. They just have different beliefs that got them there, different life experiences. So it's easier to hate, but it's harder to try to understand the other perspective. Even if you hate that perspective, try to understand why people make the decisions they do before you judge them too harshly. That's all I would say.
Such beautiful, grounding energy and words of wisdom. So thank you so much, Rob. So, so grateful for your heart and your presence here. Where can people go to learn more about you, your channeling courses, and get connected with your work?
Yeah, I appreciate the compliment, and I love being here, and I'm really glad we got to do this. So thank you. If you want to check out my work, there's two places. The etwhisper.com is my website for my channeling, or robgauthier.com. Metatroncenter.com, artif.com. It'll all take you to that website for my stuff. And the channel panel is the other thing I'm doing. It's the multiple channeler event thing that I do.
And that's in person, right? That's in November.
Yeah, we've got it. It's in November in West Virginia, but you can also get live stream tickets. And like Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, will be there, and Wendy Kennedy from the Pleiadians, and a lot of amazing channelers will be there. And we're doing 2 of those a year. And we just did one in Sedona in January, and we're doing this one in November. But I think we're going to start just doing them in April and October every year. So thechannelpanel.com, that's how to find that one.
Okay. Well, we will link to all of that in the show notes. Rob, thank you so much again.
Thank you, Emily. And I'm grateful for you having me on. And I send lots of love to you and your family.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
As well. And thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next time.